Ahoy! And welcome to Manning Overboard. Happy Hour with Hotcakes and the Captain. A show about the good and liquid life.
Where we talk about bars, bartending, and booze.
She's Hotcakes.
And he's the Captain.
Thanks for coming aboard. Now, let's go overboard. Ahoy and welcome to Manning Overboard. Cocktails with Hotcakes and the Captain. I am the Captain Rich Manning, and with me as always is my beautiful and lovely talented wife, Heather Hotcakes.
Hi.
So, hi, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
So, Hotcakes, what are we having? What are we drinking today?
Well, as always, we are drinking some of our guests' drinks that they have published.
Outstanding.
So, for you, I made the Margot Daiquiri. It's a daiquiri that is made with Appleton 12-year, a little bit of loose leaf black tea, some lime juice, agave for the sweetener, and Aperol. Garnished, of course, with a grapefruit wedge instead of a lime wheel. And for me, I have out of the Speed Rack cocktail book.
Oh, wow, nice.
I have the soft launch, which is right here, which is it's a spritz variation of sorts. It is a tequila, a sherry shrub, which I happen to make with sherry and a champagne. No, yes, it was a champagne vinegar,
Okay.
lemon, and Suze, topped with sparkling wine.
Well, now, that's fancy.
That's fancy.
I think we need to cheers this.
We do, but we need to ask our guests first what they're drinking, and why
This
don't you
is true.
introduce them before you do that?
But this looks so delicious.
Oh,
I
we
can't
need to
wait.
introduce them, please, and thank you.
Okay, let me do this. Well, it's going to take a minute because our guest is today is Christina Veira, co-owner of the award-winning Bar Mordecai in Toronto,
Yay!
and founder/owner of the hospitality training school STAVE. Her bona fides are jaw-dropping and numerous. Let's go. So she landed on Imbibe 75, the list from Imbibe magazine in 2019. She earned 2023 Bartender of the Year honors from Canada's 100 Best list. She was number 15 on Drinks International Bar World's 100 Most Influential Figures for 2024.
Okay.
The fifth consecutive year she made the list.
Nice job.
Yeah. She earned World 50 Best Bar North America Roku Industry Icon in 2022. She is also a 2025 International Honoree of Tales of the Cocktails Catalyst Award. If that's not enough, she's involved with Toronto Cocktail Week and Speed Rack Canada, and she's a regular guest on CTV's The Social TV Show, which are delightful little vignettes. Plus, she's a fierce advocate of DEI and inclusion in the bar industry, and her thoughtful insights on these and many other subjects make her social media feed a must-follow for anyone who appreciates the bar scene beyond the cocktail, and we'll make sure that we get that to you at the end of the show. So, we're rather honored to call her our friend. So, welcome, Christina, so much to be in on Manning Overboard. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you for having us. What are you drinking today, my friend?
It is hot here, so I am just having a glass of rosé in a tumbler because it's been a few days.
I love it.
Fantastic. That's great.
Well, cheers.
I realize every so often if I raise my arm, you're gonna see my dog.
Let's hear. There's Yaya.
Yeah. Hi, yeah.
Speaking of of her Instagram feed, Yaya is she's your second fiddle on the Instagram feed.
Yeah, my little best friend.
She is your best friend, and really that should have been probably top fiddle as far as all the accolades go. Mother to Yaya.
Fair. All right. So, well, you have so many accolades, right?
Right.
I mean, it's incredible.
But I want to know where she got her start.
Okay.
How did you get into this crazy world of bartending, my friend? We haven't talked about this.
Yeah, I know. We've never talked about it. It's it's nice too because we are friends. So it's funny how sometimes with friends you don't talk about a lot of parts of your life.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. There's other things we can talk about too, right?
100%.
So like a lot of people in the bar world, I started in more restaurants, to be honest. But I started in bars and restaurants in university, mostly as a way to find a part-time job. That was good for the hours when you're in university. I went to U of T, so I'm very Torontonian. I've never worked or lived anywhere that is in Toronto,
Right.
or a suburb of Toronto, in case anyone fact checks from Canada. And I really enjoyed it. I was definitely much more of a restaurant person. But I started around, I guess, really when I was like 18. My first technical restaurant job, I think, would be a salad tosser was my actual title. And I worked lunches, only for a few weeks. I worked lunches it's now called Freshie. I think they're a chain. They might be in the States, but at the time it was called Lettuce Eatery.
Okay.
And literally, it's like what you thought. They used to not like shake the bowls of salad. They used to like actually have you toss them. So my arm got really strong in a short amount of time. I really thought I would be more in kitchens. So I love cooking. I grew up in a church. I'm not really religious right now, but my mom was an administrator of a church and I was a deacon of a church. So from I was like 5, I'd always have little keys and I'd always help set out refreshments, and it's a pretty
Sure.
large church. So like there's a lot of hospitality that comes in being in a big church, especially a church that's like quite Caribbean and Filipino in terms of its population. There's a lot
Absolutely.
of, so I think that's kind of where I got the start. But then I was more restaurants. So I worked in a lot of like really great restaurants in Toronto. Then I was really into wine. I was really into beer. I got wine certifications and beer certifications. And I was much more of a restaurant manager. I started working at this place called 416 Snack Bar, which I don't think you guys went to when you were in Toronto, but
No.
it's
No.
one of the like many inspiration bars that Ian had for Bar Snack in New York. And there's
Okay.
like
Oh, okay.
But 416 was one of the first places to do late night food in Toronto. Toronto had a lot of closures in the recession in like I guess 09, 10. And why
Okay.
that's really relevant is you had a lot of like really amazing restaurants that closed, which had been really great training grounds. So I think that's why if anyone comes to Toronto, you'll find that a lot of people who are around my age, so in their like late 30s or early 40s, one, own a lot of places, but also like we're quite trained at a young age. So some of our lore doesn't meet how we appear
Sure.
because we just had really great training grounds. But a lot of places closed, which created a lot of energy for people to open places in Toronto, cheaper rents, cheaper whatever
Sure.
for people, and friends who were very well trained in more formal service at least. So 416 was awesome. It was definitely it was definitely a bar as well, but regulars became really important. And that was before cocktails really hit Toronto. They really
Sure.
started around 2012, 2013. So I was very much learning on the go, like using a lot of my other knowledge in it. Like we had DJs, it was like very lively. It still is, it's still around. But I was learning a lot on that mode, and I thought I was going to open a bar, a more whiskey bar, and I had potential investors. And I realized that while I had learned a lot of cocktails, mostly from even my friends who worked more in bartending, watching them doing it at work, because I did bartend quite a bit at that time in addition to managing, I had like missed this whole growth in bar world. Like when I had started in restaurants, ordering a Cosmo was very sophisticated. You would never sell
Yeah.
cocktails in restaurants. It was lazy. You might sell a cocktail to start, then you sell wine. And so while we saw everything going on and we saw this growth, it was a little bit after even Tales on Tour had been in Vancouver. I had like missed out on it. And I didn't think it was like the most important thing overall. But I realized that if I was to hire anyone, especially as a younger woman, but just in general, there'd be all this growth with brand trips, with competitions, with trainings that any staff I hired had access to that I would not be able to really give them as a bar owner, bar
Sure.
manager, or anything. So I started picking up other work. I started working at Harvard Room with Dave Midden, was the owner, who most people now know for Lot 40 and everything.
Yeah.
Evelyn Chick had just moved from Vancouver to take over as manager there, while David started his role with Weiser's Lot 40. Eventually, Josh Lindley also went there. And that was part of me trying to engage with like cocktail world. I still found it a little bit hard to like break in. I had originally with my whiskey bar wanted to also import spirits, and I found that I was really interested. It was easy to have these conversations with potential restaurant clients and beer client or wine clients because like I already had that social sphere. My place that I worked at was quite industry before, but I hit a wall. with cocktail people. So I started doing comps. I did really well at the comps I started doing. So I'd like won the comps. And then I was like, oh, cocktail world's amazing. You can go on trips. You could do all these things. And you do wine and beer, especially wine.
Right.
You spend a lot of your own money, right? And there is a social atmosphere to it. And I love wine. I'm a wine girly. But I all of a sudden had encountered a lot of opportunity when I switched over to spirits. And I think because I did have a non-typical background compared to a lot of people I know in bar world. So I still think of myself as, I think it's funny that I'm much more known for cocktails and spirits than the others. But I guess now we're almost at equal time in the industry. I think it just switched over into maybe more being cocktail and spirits focused. But I became a spirits educator because I was helping out with Boston Thirst, which was an amazing conference in Boston. And I had met I made friends with Bar Mordecai from WSET, and they were piloting level 3 spirits, and they were having a hard time finding people who had done level 3 wine who also knew enough to potentially audit or do the pilot of level 3 spirit.
Sure.
And so I weirdly am someone who's done all my wine training 12, 13 years ago. So that's what started my WSET journey. And pre-COVID, I know it's like so long, I feel like I've just lived so many lives. Pre-COVID, I had transitioned out of bricks and mortars, and I was basically a full-time combination of an educator, a consultant, hospitality person. I would also consult or help with XM work a lot with experiential marketing companies, especially on execution of drinks, and do things like Restaurants Canada alongside Evelyn Chick, Toronto Cocktail Week, which was with St. Joseph's Media. But then with COVID, everything, like every way I made money didn't make sense, right? Travel wasn't a thing, conferences weren't a thing, experiential marketing weren't a thing, events weren't a thing. And why would people pay for training when they can't work? So I kind of chilled, and I did some fun things and some cute things during COVID. I would do weekly meetings with people, like this was called like In My Feelings, where we could just talk about stuff and it'd be very open. On Zoom, I would do I did public speaking in university and high school because I'm naturally kind of shy, but I've worked through that. So I would do free public speaking, especially for Zoom, for people who are trying to learn how to interview, maybe to leave their industry. And then eventually Emily and Josh, who are my business partners, they had opened Mordecai 6 weeks before COVID. So it had opened on January 29th. I guess before COVID lockdowns, January 29th, 2020. And they'd had another bar, but they ended up splitting the bars. So their business partner and took the older bar, Mahjong. They kept Mordecai. And they basically approached me if I wanted to be a partner. And I want to say July or August of 2020. Because none of the things that I'd expected to come back had really come back yet.
Sure.
And I was like, can't be longer or more lockdowns. Why not go back to bricks and mortar? Because I'd been out for a couple of years of working in places.
Okay.
And then we had more lockdowns.
Longer. Just add it on. Yeah.
But overall, but then you kind of see me where I am now. So Mordecai is still open. Toronto, Montreal, I think had some of the worst lockdowns globally, especially because we're in a cooler climate. So we had over 440. Toronto had over 440 days of no indoor dining. Our last lockdown ended in February of 2022. So when we got the email about the new 50 best bars in North America and that we made it, I honestly thought it was a joke. I had no idea what was going on because we were still heavily in restrictions. And I couldn't imagine anyone voting for us when we weren't really existing.
Right.
And I know that's a really weird way to look at it, but it felt like that. Even when we were in New York, I was like,
sure,
they're going to tell us, sorry, we made a mistake. We mixed up emails. But yeah, that's basically it today. I do the things you've mentioned. I do the things you know about. But I had a pretty non-linear path to becoming a bar owner. And I actually had for a while thought I would never be a bar owner. So it's very interesting to be one after you'd already kind of given up on it.
Sure.
Totally.
For sure. And you continue to do, and your bar is pretty amazing. It's a pretty special bar. We were lucky enough to visit it. Gosh, feels like forever ago.
In November.
But it was just last November, and it's a really special place, Christina. It's a really the vibe upstairs is really cool, and then the vibe downstairs is just I love the 2 levels. I love the top space where it's cocktails and fun, and downstairs with the karaoke, and then the little mini bar downstairs. It's perfect.
Yeah, and then the upstairs has this little Wes Anderson vibe, which, Bar Mordecai is from it was a reference to a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm so lucky to have the business partners that I have. Like, everyone has like talents and vision. And sometimes I think I'm creative in some ways, but my creativity has limits. And usually my creativity flows so much stronger with other people's overarching vision.
Sure.
And being business partners with people who like to be honest, had the vision to have like a 230 plus place that has karaoke rooms, that has this beautiful design that they're constantly working on and constantly bringing in like all of these things. It's like from them. And it's interesting to be in something where like I still feel like I put a lot of myself in, but to also like be so grateful to be partnered with people who are so much more expansive in their thinking than I could be. And I think that even going to a lot of my friends' bars or restaurants or businesses in general, like just like really being impressed by like how people dream.
Yeah.
And like push boundaries of what things can be. Like I love our space, and I understand that it's not always for everyone, but I do think it's actually quite welcoming to most. And I do love seeing people come in and being like, oh wow, I can do all this without leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun walking into any space and just being inspired. And just being able to, whether you take one little bit or you take a corner or you take an upstairs or you take a downstairs inspiration from it, it's fun going into any new space and finding that inspiration. And Bar Mordecai has a lot of places just to find that little pop of inspiration, which is it's a great spot to be in. What are some of the challenges that you have to keep the energy of that space consistent throughout?
Yeah, I mean, so I think for everyone, like when we open, it's like an interesting time, right? Because
Sure.
we naturally had to have a slower evolution of a space. In some ways, I am grateful for it. Like aside from like the obvious like monetary things that come with that, I think when people do opens, I noticed this a lot traveling recently. People are just so sorry. I'm just looking at Yaya in the back being a maniac. People are so impatient that if they're not immediately busy, the second they open or people don't get it, that means the idea is bad. And what I think is always a challenge is when if you do a lot, it can be seen like you don't do anything at all. And it can be very easy to abandon certain parts because people don't understand it, when a lot of times that's around communication. So in our business, we have a lot of conversations around communication, and they're pretty constant. And they're with staff, they're with us to staff, they're us to guests, there's guests to staff. It's everything, because a place that does so much, really what we really have to manage is a lot of managing expectations. And that's just part of hospitality in general.
Yeah.
But we have karaoke rooms. Our karaoke rooms are great, but they're also full service. You get full access to our dinner menu, which means you can have oysters, you can have steak, you can have everything. Mm-hmm. You have full access to a cocktail menu. You also don't have to choose from the cocktail menu. If you want to come into a karaoke room and crush last words, and call it a day, you completely can. And then if you want to have a bottle of vodka, you can also do that. If you want to have wine, you can do that. If you don't want to drink, you can do that. We don't, which is very different from a typical karaoke room structure,
right?
Which doesn't mean that it offers a lot, but it's also very different from that, right? So everything is based inside of the room. You have full service inside the room, which means you don't just go to the bar, right? We are quite booked out for the rooms. I remember when you guys were there, we had like a weird hour that we could sneak in. Mm-hmm. That's very different from a normal karaoke room system too, right? Like, so a lot of times people can just show up and then they just kind of go in. people are late all the time these days, but because we have all these bookings after, we can't do anything about it. And to be honest, I never thought that we would be able to book out all the rooms at 7 p.m. I think that's also sometimes psychotic, but we can.
Yeah.
And all 4 rooms will be like booked out the entire night, which is amazing. But again, other guests' perception isn't always going to be that. So I think for us, like, communication is a really big thing. And whenever any of us slack on it, which can also be top down, when I'm like, oh, maybe it's slower this week, we don't have to worry about this, it always snowballs. And it's very important to be communicative. I think it's also very important to be consistent. I think large spaces, there's almost more of a need to aim towards consistency than to aim towards crazy innovation, because you cannot control everything. You cannot see everything. And between the rooms and the zones, we have like 7 zones at any point in time. I cannot physically see all the staff. No manager can. And so making sure that everything is made so that our communication and our quality is as consistent as possible is incredibly important, because that is also how we keep people happy and managing their expectations and and then creating space to be warm. Because again, we're large, and and we're in a major-ish city, but we're not in a major city,
Right.
which means we need to have regulars, and we need to have people enjoy themselves. And we're like over 5 years old now, right? So we will never be part of a press cycle about new things, but we can be about a press cycle about great things. So I think that's like really where our kind of, not so much like challenges, so they are challenges, but like where our focus really lies. And then for us, we do a lot around programming. So it's really just about staying current with what people want. And I've noticed that in our market, because of closures, because of reopens, and because everyone's re-navigating how to be out in public, it has been interesting to see how quickly what guests want can change in small ways.
Okay.
Most live music venues have closed in Toronto. Everything's quite expensive to go to. So we've had a pretty good traction on doing live music that has no cover on it.
Okay.
So we have found almost a better, like, trying to leverage our brand relationships to incentivize things like that has been very good, because it also creates us more of a community hub, not just like a place where you can go and you have to line up on a weekend and everything, because we need people to feel like they can come earlier in the week. So that's been interesting. And they do enjoy when we do things like, say, a pop-up or more bar industry focused events. We will never not do that, but we have found that like industry can be broad. And because we work with artists and because we work with other things, we can expand what our idea of industry is too. So
Sure.
it's been our kind of like, I guess they're kind of challenges and kind of focus points.
Sure.
No, that's great. And, you mentioned just how like Toronto is kind of a small community, but, it is a big city. Still, it's like the 4th largest city in North America, population-wise. Something crazy like that. But the thing that's cool about the community is that it's so tight-knit. It very much is actually like a smaller city. But with places like Bar Mordecai and some of the other places in Toronto that are starting to get attention, nationally and internationally, do you feel that the vibe of that small, tight communal vibe might be in danger as more eyeballs get on Toronto?
I think there will always be like fracture lines in any community based on competition.
Mm-hmm.
I think something that is somewhat helpful actually, there's 2 things. I'll actually answer this in 2 ways.
Okay.
Because I'm from Toronto and I'm like a hospitality baby in Toronto. So younger people, especially people who I'd say more of their developmental time was during COVID, they have a very different impression than what I'm probably going to say. But because their whole growth pattern has been very different. But Toronto has never been a city that particularly is obsessed with other people's status in the industry. And that frustrates some people, but it can also be a good thing.
Sure.
There are very successful restaurateurs, hospitality people who have owned multiple places in Toronto, that it's not that they wouldn't get treated well at certain places, but also it's not so much that everyone is afraid of them. There's almost no figure that is truly frightful in Toronto. Toronto has a good community overall, but it doesn't have a community that's very
Okay.
It never has. It's never done well with those things. If if you want to talk about what our community looks like, it's quite loose. There's no one person you go to that organizes things or what have you. There's areas that communicate more, and there's subgenres of places that communicate more. But generally speaking, that is not something that happens here. And that is a very big difference from, I think, those markets where there's a lot more fractures, because what you tend to have is a lot more competition between specific hospitality groups, between specific people who are leaders in the community kind of jockeying, and then it kind of like snowballs. So in general, we do not really have that. And even the people who I would argue are like incredibly successful in the industry are usually not as concerned with those things as you'd say. Like, people just want to make their little money, get their little cottage, have everyone leave them alone,
Sure.
or whatever. So I think that does help. I do think when you're looking at, say, cocktail-ish bar world, I don't think a great bar has to be a quote-unquote cocktail bar, but I think when we talk about a lot of these lists, it will always skew a little bit more into the cocktail or those kind of experiential side. There is a lot more competition, and I think that's also because a lot of people, one, want to prove things to themselves or to their investors or what have you. But we're not a major market, and New York or London will get so many people going to them that it almost doesn't matter. They will have a good amount of people who are judges, who are writers, go to them. And one thing that, like, when I talk to people who are more developing in their career in the city or in Canada in general, that I really try to like drive home is like, you do not have to like everyone else's bar, everyone else's program or whatever. But if you go to, say, a bar comp in Brooklyn, a London Cocktail Week, Bar Mordecai, whatever you go, if you talk to people who are less inclined to even come to your city and you talk about how you're the only good thing to go to your city, they will not go to your city. Why would they go to your city if there's only one good bar? Like, no one's going to go to a city where there's one good bar. And I noticed this with a lot of like smaller cities and communities that are very competitive. I'm going to say this, I don't think this is the right city to use, but it's like, I think it's a good idea of like a comparable-ish size. It's like, Nashville has a lot going for it, and everyone knows they can go to Nashville to go to great places, right? You can have great music, there's lots of hotels, whatever, right? But if you're specifically more inclined to go on a cocktail bar scene, if you talk to someone who's in a market that's still relatively small, where some of those cocktail bars are not particularly close to each other, and if that person then says, well, we're the only good one and everything else is overrated, you're probably less likely to be like, oh, I'm going to go there on the next trip. So I see that as the same thing for Toronto. I think that the work that a lot of people in Toronto, in Montreal, in Vancouver, across the country have done with each other, even if it's like bringing people up, encouraging them to go to other cities, I think that that isn't always seen as like the work that gets everyone attention. Because even when you guys came up, I didn't only take you to places that were already on 50 Best Discovery.
No.
Like, because, and that's something that you can look up what's on 50 Best Discovery. 50 Best Discovery is incredibly helpful as a tool in cities or places where you do not know anyone.
Right.
But once you're on the ground, that's not what people on the ground should be recommending, especially if they don't have a personal connection with those places, right? You should be recommending, like when we took you guys to all manners of places. And even when we took you to Slice of Life, they ended up on 50 Best, right? It's like,
But they weren't there yet. Yeah.
They were there, yeah.
But we went there and they were still quite new. And I think that encouraging people to go to other things, encouraging people to travel around, and not seeing each other as competitors, but seeing each other as like say if you don't like someone's program, if you don't think it's as good as yours, then someone experiencing that program won't make them think less of your own if it's actually better. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's just another place to go to, right? Like, and if anything, yours will shine brighter.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how I think of it.
Yeah. We recently had Kate Gerwin on, and she was like, I don't want people just to sit at my bar and spend 5 hours at my bar drinking all day. I want them to go and sit at my bar, have a drink, have 3, maybe 2, but then I want them to go explore the city around me, and I want to send them off, and I want them to drink at other spots around the city, because I want them to explore the city that I am in, because Albuquerque isn't just about happy accidents.
Yeah.
There's great things in Albuquerque other than just happy accidents. And if you are here just to see happy accidents, I want you to come back, because I want you to understand that there were so many other great things out there besides just Happy Accidents. And it was the same thing with Toronto. Yes, we came with a list, but we left with so many other lovely places that weren't on our list of places.
Like a place like Black Dice Cafe is not going to be on any top 50 list, but
maybe after Diageo World Class, we'll see. We'll see how much that gets blown up. But yeah,
it is incredible, and it is now. Whenever we know people that are going to Toronto, that's absolutely on the list because it is just such a great vibe. It is so different than what these other 50 best places are, but it's quintessentially Toronto as well. It's like this is a side of the city that you need to see.
Don't
that
pimp
you
her
can,
list.
you know, I'm not pimping her list. No, I just have. I was biting my tongue on that for a while, by the way. So
I absolutely love when people come in early in the evening because you've seen the bar. The bar changes drastically from like
100%.
6 p.m. till midnight. It's like 4 different places. I love when people come in from out of town, 6 or 7. You give them a little list of places to go. You ask, do you want to walk in the neighborhood? Because our neighborhood has 80 million places anyway.
Great places, yes.
So many.
You really don't have to leave the neighborhood. And honestly, you cannot go into every place in the neighborhood on a stroll or you will be blackout after 100 meters. Like, which people, when they're not here, think is an exaggeration. And I'm literally like, if you had a drink at every bar for 300 meters from here, you wouldn't be able to have a night.
Absolutely.
But I love when people come back, either at the end of the night or the next day.
Yeah.
And that is like the biggest compliment. You went to all these places that I know are going to be great and you still wanted to come back.
Yeah.
And you trusted us, right? And part of your hospitality and trusting it is like trusting that hospitality to also guide you into somewhere where you want to be. I can tell if someone comes in and like they like what we're doing enough, but like maybe they have a slightly different vibe because I'm going to give them recommendations. You guys travel all the time. And I remember when I was younger, the first time you get a list from people that gave you like the super tourist list, and then you went to it and you're like, wow, you didn't think I knew anything.
Absolutely.
The day that I was like, I'll never give someone a super tourist list again. Like they don't have to go to my list, but I'm never going to give them. I was like, oh, what if you go to like this club district or like this chain or whatever, right? Like,
correct.
It's a waste of a recommendation. Just say I don't have recommendations.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I have a question, and it's how do you go about hiring your staff? You have an incredible roster of people in your bar, and it was obvious to me that you trust them implicitly with taking care of your guests, making sure they understand your vision, making sure that they understand that your guests are taken care of. How do you go about hiring the people to fit your spot and your vision?
So, I mean, it always moves, right? So I think for us is in some ways we give like less autonomy to the staff. Okay. So like,
sure.
A good example is our hosts. There is no way to make a reservation in the place that isn't through Resi, or if it's a larger group booking, it's online through an email, which is basically done by me or my business partner, Emily. There is literally zero way to make a reservation outside of that. So that could normally be like, well, so what are the hosts for? And basically the hosts are just there to communicate everything, to guide people through the process, to help them get to where they want. But again, any karaoke room, straight through Resi, everything's that way. Not everyone finds that satisfying, right? But what they don't see is like what that does is it allows like this deeper ability to focus on the other parts that are guest facing. And a lot of our systems are really about focusing on how you can make guest time better rather than focusing on all the back end, removing as much prep as possible from their plates so that they can be guest facing, having work weeks that are 3, max 4 days a week so that there's never any question if it is about execution, if it is also about burnout, right? Like,
sure.
Teams fluctuate all the time. We've been quite lucky, like over our time, to always be blessed with like amazing people who like other people. And I think that's incredibly important. I don't really understand when people who don't like other people are in
the hospitality industry. Correct.
And hospitality, which doesn't mean that you can't find people exhausting. People are exhausting. but creating as much time in their service to be about service is, I think, what is like really important for us, because that is, I think, how we create and maintain hearts and minds.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that would be for us. Clear job postings, and we're always working on this because to be honest too, like as I mentioned, the business has changed so much in 5 years. So obviously,
Sure.
what
Yeah.
people's roles will always look like that, and they'll always shift around. And really ascribing to the idea that at the end of the day, like we never have to force like a square peg into a round hole.
Okay.
And it is keeping a team healthy is important. Keeping a team communicative is important. And people can be a bad fit for us. We can be a bad fit for them.
Sure.
And that's very different than seeing them and honoring them personally.
Sure.
And sometimes you can also hit a wall for each other's growth.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I think what a lot of people in hospitality do is because they flatten every level of their relationships, personal, professional, and otherwise, that it becomes so hard to disentangle that when they do disentangle, it's always because everything's come to a really negative head. And it doesn't have to be that way. If you want different hours, if we can't do those hours, then let's create a transition where you can find a place that gives you those hours, right?
Yeah.
Not everything has to be fraught. And I think, and I tell the staff this all the time. Like, I'm like, I've left every job I've ever had, which is why I own a business. So leaving a job is not in and of itself a bad thing. But I was like, you'll notice that like everyone from all my former jobs and roles comes in, and I still have good relationships with them, because that is also really important. And you can choose what that looks like for you. But also just know that like no one is ever going to be mad at you for choosing yourself. And a lot of the structures are also so that you can always choose yourself, and you can also choose your own personal life. We do other things like a lot of people are starting to do now. Like we offer benefits if you work a minimum of 24 hours a week. On average, if you don't work a minimum of 24 hours a week, you still have access to a monthly wellness credit. It just looks different than the benefits overall. And that starts immediately upon hiring. Benefits are like after 3 months. Wellness things as well. Like a couple summers ago, we did like Muay Thai. We try to encourage like and offer different parts of enrichment and everything. And again, I think a lot of people do enjoy our more flexible schedule, the fact that we don't overschedule, and we are only open 5 days a week. We do pick up a lot of events on Sundays and Mondays.
So if you want to. Yeah.
My contract with them is that they won't be scheduled for Sundays and Mondays, but I will put up the shifts and they bid on them. And if we ever reach a point where we cannot fill the shifts on the Sundays and Mondays, then we might revisit what the availability looks like. But that basically everyone can have the peace of mind that on a Sunday and Monday they're off unless they choose to pick up a shift, which is also a good way. And usually a Sunday and Monday, if there is a shift to pick up, it's quite good, to be honest. Like it's going to be like, because it's pretty much foolproof at that point, right? It's like an event.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
I love that you're talking about benefits, and immediately in my mind, I'm like, oh, you give them health care.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So-
yeah, silly American.
Yeah.
Silly American in my
it's
mind.
similar. It's similar. So we have healthcare broadly. And one thing and they've changed some rules in Canada. So a lot of people actually are on, if their parents have benefits, on their parents' benefits till age 25. Okay.
Okay.
They've also extended, I think, they're slowly extending more and more from the government. But compared to, say, when I was younger, it was like there was no dental. They're slowly creating a dental program. So dental is a very big one. Eye care is a very big one. And then kind of paramedical stuff. So physio, chiro, whatever.
Okay.
Like all of those things are not typically included.
They're not
so
okay.
massage therapy. So that's what our benefits are.
Nice.
Dental care is fascinating. I'm sure, as you know, in the States, for how expensive it is and how much it affects the rest of other people's health. One thing we've noticed, and I've talked to other Canadian business owners that have added benefits in hospitality, is you tend to have you tend to have a workforce, a labor force that has neglected certain parts of their health. So when they get access to benefits, they use much more proportionally than if they had been in another field. So if they'd even worked in like an office that had benefits, they'd probably would have gotten that root canal. They probably would have gotten that tooth extracted, which means that with a lot of hospitality companies here that have started to add benefits, especially post-COVID, many of us have had conversations with our insurance about essentially feeling overly penalized by how much over they go the allotment because they're catching up.
Right,
And
because they haven't had it.
Yeah.
They hadn't had a reason to use it, or they haven't had the ability to use it. Now they're catching up with all the things that they needed to get done. Yes.
And generally speaking, it is better for a workforce in general. Like it's the same with like people can talk about public education, right?
Right.
Public education is good, but also public education is essentially daycare for a workforce. And if you get rid of public education, then someone has to look after children, which means you're probably going to pull out a lot of your workforce from childcare, which is like not the way people like it being framed, because it's not as like cute and sexy, but it's very real. And so if you think about that with hospitality, where we have people who work with their literal bodies, like their ability to get physio, to get chiro, to get massages, to take care of their dental, to take care of their eyes, especially working in dark spaces, becomes incredibly important for the longevity of them to be able to do their job, which then becomes important in general to keep a trained workforce. Like, so it's not amazing. Gerwin and I talk about this all the time, where people don't talk enough about the cost of trying to run a more ethical business in hospitality, and that it means you actually have to be a bit better at business because you add more costs to your bottom line and you usually don't have the same shortcuts. But it's still worth it, right?
But
absolutely,
I mean, not in the long. I mean, in the long run, it's absolutely worth it. You are taking care of your business. You are your what costs you are adding. You are subtracting from training. You are subtracting from having to rehire or cover, or having a staff person literally break down on you. Yeah, for sure.
And not only that, I mean, we're also coming in an era now where bartending is a quote honorable profession, and so that means you're going to be people that want to be in this industry for their career. And so, as these bartenders, they're in their 20s and 30s now, if they stick around, they don't become like elevate to a brand ambassador or whatever, and they're behind the stick like in their 40s or 50s. That kind of holistic care is going to be much more important. So
100%. Like it's you only get one body, right? And this a lot of the way that hospitality has been structured on the disposability of bodies. And I think what a lot of us, even especially like I'd say my generation of hospitality, I think is in this weird in between where we've learned a lot of bad habits that we're trying to fight against, but we're relearning how to do new things, while some of the older methods are like getting almost like lionized, like as if that's better. And you're like, because for me, it's like when I started in hospitality, minimum wage in Ontario was, I think my first paycheck I got when I worked on the boats in the harbor was like $4.70 an hour. So obviously, like tips meant something, right? Like it is interesting to have across the board mentality around front of house workers instill a tipping system where tips mean less because you actually get a real paycheck, and that's not a bad thing. That means that we communicate more about care work, right? And and that part of hospitality, right, where I'm less inclined. We do a lot of autograt for like say karaoke rooms, but I am very much like we work for autograt. Autograt isn't a given. Like autograt is a promise that we will take care of them.
For sure.
Like we don't get to have it both ways, right?
No.
So I think it's been interesting overall, but I think it's worth all of us having those conversations. And I think even like when it comes to what excellence looks like in the bar world, I do think in say business conversations, we should really talk about the bottom line cost of adding, which other industries do, right?
Yeah.
Like tech does, right? Most other industries are so far ahead of us.
Right.
Creating a baseline for a professional class because they want people to stay in it for longer. I think we take for granted that if someone is still in it at 35, they are maybe part of a management class at that point.
Right.
And that's not really fair either.
No.
Not
No.
everyone wants that, nor should they need to have to do that.
Correct.
No, I know bar professionals that are, past 35, and they're in the management phase, and they're miserable because they're like, I just want to be behind the bar and bartend and create. I don't want to manage. And so I think that's an important part of the conversation to have. And transitioning to another aspect of the bar industry is, we mentioned this earlier, is you're a fierce advocate of DEI and inclusion. And do you see in the industry, do you see that the industry is lagging behind or a step ahead of society as far as like being a beacon for a DEI and inclusivity?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because I do think it varies from place to place.
Okay.
So I think the interesting thing about hospitality is like we're in a global or even national community, but we are ultimately most responsible for the people where we are, right?
Sure.
And but so I will always say that I have a lot of assumptions of life and how things go because I grew up in like the literal most multicultural city in the world.
Absolutely. 100%.
So I do travel, and then I do get like, oh no, like moments where I'm like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
So I'm always like contextualizing that like my impressions are very much from someone who treats often Toronto like a baseline, and it's probably not a baseline.
Okay.
I think hospitality wants to be really welcoming, and I do think it's gone a lot better. I think the way that we fully like combat that is one, I think there's a lot of class issues within hospitality and internalized like classism that no one really talks about.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, even just something as simple as the amount of people who, when they justify why they shouldn't be treated a certain way, will reference their degrees. And I'm like, that doesn't really matter. You're not more worthwhile because, and you shouldn't assume that the reason why someone's treating you this way is because they didn't know that you have a master's. It's completely irrelevant to how someone should treat you. Like, you're not unintelligent because of that. I have incredibly intelligent, connected, amazing friends who also, like, I don't think I'm less intelligent because I chose this as my career path, but I think that's actually in and of itself something a lot of people struggle with. And I think they take that struggle and they not weaponize it, but like they use that to infuse a lot of feelings of worth and like how they hold other people. And then that gets compounded by classism, also intersects with race, with misogyny, with all of it, with transphobia, with homophobia. So overall, I'd say in my experience, hospitality has gone better, at least since I started. But I think hospitality is always a reflection of the community it's in.
Sure.
And I think, or it can be. And I think that sometimes we get really bogged down in how we see ourselves as actors, which we can be actors in it.
Yeah.
So people will be like, so when you see the signs, it's like, we don't like you can't say like you're like a transphobic free zone. You can't say you're a racist free zone because it's not like one, people can activate things in different ways. And also all these phobias and isms are not things that your guests randomly truck in that you can deny at the door. Sometimes they manifest themselves in very different ways. And so I think it has to be an active practice with everyone. And I think that's where we hit a wall because a lot of what we call hospitality is more people pleasing the people that we think have impact.
Sure.
And not seeing how that ripples into the broader community we're in. And I think that conversations, even in hospitality, around allyship miss the point. You don't have to be an ally if you're in community with people. So if you see yourself as like in community with people, then you see how what happened to them also affects you more, to be overly simplistic, right? Like you don't have to see it as being separate. And so I think when people really focus on like, how can I best be an ally? And like, if you cannot see a day in your life without your like queer friends, like just for pride, without your trans friends or staff or whatever, you will make very different decisions when you do not see your life without them. But if you see them as a choice, if you see them as an active choice you are making, and every time you protect them as an active choice, you do that, and you can extend that to anything, then that's where the choice can be difficult, right? The choice becomes fraught. So I think that's like where we are right now in hospitality. I think you see some people really pulling back, and they use different excuses. And those excuses often are like jeopardizing their own staff or their own guests, right? And I think it's a very specific style of conflict avoidance, which is not to excuse it, but I think everyone has to really start making a decision about like what is important to them, because I think bars are still community spaces at the end of the day.
Right, which actually leads me to one more question, and it's a question that you and I have talked about building that bar being the place to build community. And one of the more profound things I've seen on your Instagram was a discussion that you had about being a bar versus a place that serves drinks. And I know we've talked about that. I've written about that. I've included you in that. So, what is the one element that separates a bar from a place that serves drinks?
I think my simplistic answer is if the bar staff have an expectation of creating that the guest is a regular. And a regular can be broad. A regular doesn't have to be, I mean, when I was like at 4 and 6, we'd have people who were there like literally every day. Like, it doesn't have to be every day. It can be once a month. It could be your regular is someone who liked you so much that they just always send their friends when they're in town, which is, I feel like I'm that to like some places.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's like, what kind of relationship are they trying to build with people who come in? And is that the focus? I think that, I don't remember if I had worded it to you like this, but I think with a lot of the bars that are the more ambitious, there's almost been this like restaurantification of how they promote themselves, which is not to say that being a restaurant is bad. We are also a restaurant, but that it becomes about the experience, and the experience can be devoid of human contact. So I don't mind tasting menus in general. I like tasting menus, but I find tasting menus are a really good example of a style of service that typically is ignoring the interaction with other people at the table. The entire focus is like what you have in front of you. So usually those restaurants, or I guess now bars, are usually quite quiet as well. They're not usually particularly interactive. I think bars should be interactive. And I think any bar, the more expensive or cheap, should have this idea of like, I can come back here. I can be comfortable here. This is like more of a community space. So to me, that's a big difference between bar-focused places and even like restaurant-focused places.
Yeah. I love it.
Right.
I love it. And I think that's a really good spot to end on, because I think that's exactly what you strive to be as a bar owner, as a place that you want to return to, a place that you want your guests to want to come back to and to feel comfortable in, and want to come and have a good time in. And I know that Rich and I can't wait to come back to Toronto and just sit at Bar Mordecai, and maybe even venture down to the karaoke room and find a couple of friends to hang out with and sing some songs and whatnot. Because we just had the most wonderful time.
It was an incredible time. And really, I mean, until we can get there, we want to be those people that send our friends,
the regulars,
to
that send
make a beeline Bar Mordecai, have an incredible time, have great drinks, enjoy the karaoke, all that.
Yeah. So
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But before we let you go, we do have our send-off questions.
Okay.
The last 12 questions that we like to call them. Because, as mentioned, we'd like to think that our bartenders, our bar owners, are the keys to the city. They are the people that, if we come to your bar, again, we don't necessarily want we don't want to go to TripAdvisor and get the standard 5 places to go to. We want to know about your city through your eyes. So, if we were sitting at your bar, if we were sitting at Bar Mordecai, and we were coming to the end of our evening at Bar Mordecai, after our cocktail here, What's going to be my next stop for a good time?
Okay, so
Or for a good drink?
for good drink. So I assume I'm going to say that I always go like what direction I'm sending you in. So if I'm sending you west, depends what vibe you want. But if you're going west from us, you can go chop into Compton, which is 2 doors down. Then you can go to Crybaby, which is another block over. And then you can keep your little stroll going on, and you can end at Black Ties. So that's like, I think, a classic West stroll. Not
I
everyone
think we
listens.
did that.
We did.
Yeah, I think you guys did
Yeah.
We
that.
absolutely
We
did
absolutely did that. Yeah.
that. No thinking
Not
about it. We
everyone listens.
absolutely
Yeah.
did that. Yes.
You can get distracted on your way to do that too. If you go east, I'll probably just send you and release you to the wilds of Ossington Strip.
All right.
And so you can stop on your way at Churchill, which is like an amazing, like long-standing like neighborhood bar. Then you can hit Ossington. You can go to 222. You can go to Reposado, which is like long had some of the best tequila, like representation in the city. You can go to Paris if you're feeling more wine. And then you can go to No Vacancy, which you guys haven't been able to go to because it's pretty new. The drinks at No Vacancy are amazing. Like, they're lovely. And again, both of these things, you're not even walking 10 minutes. And in between, you can stop off at like 30 different bars like
Oh,
on
yeah.
that.
That's amazing.
So I would
Challenge
basically
accepted.
send you in a direction and tell you you can listen to me or you can not. And either way, you're still going to have a good time.
Fantastic.
Great.
Okay, number 2. Who's got the best burger in the city?
So I am a gluten-free baby, so everything has to come with a grain of salt. But right now, I really do enjoy getting the burger from Happy Burger.
Okay.
Happy
Okay.
Burger is my go-to. When you're gluten-free, you can do extra protein. So I do it in like a lettuce, and then I do the double, and I do extra happy sauce and extra cheese.
Lovely.
Yeah.
If I have an afternoon to kill in Toronto, what am I doing?
Ooh, afternoon tequila?
Afternoon to kill.
Oh, afternoon to kill.
Well,
What-
afternoon tequila
what-
sounds
what
delightful
time?
too.
I was like, afternoon tequila. Afternoon to kill. If you're in the summer, okay, one of my favorite things to do in the summer is, well, one, get a bike. I know, and then don't be afraid of getting hit. But I would say I love to ride my bike to the bluffs or to one of the beaches. So you can also go to the island. The bluffs are a bit further. It's actually a white sand beach in Scarborough.
Mm.
I've heard about that.
Yes.
I would get some snacks, go to one of the beaches or the island, do that, then come back into the city, probably overheated, and hit up a couple little patios, and then go to bed by 9.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah.
What is the cocktail currently on Bar Mordecai's menu that I should not miss?
Ooh, the one currently on the menu you shouldn't miss. Oh, you know what? So we did the most recent Wes Anderson film, we did a collab with.
Okay.
Fun.
Fantastic.
And we have a drink that's named after one of the characters on it. It's called the Jaja Corda. And that one is made with cognac, chocolate, a bunch of different chilies, fresh grapefruit. It's like on crushed ice. It's tall, has an angled float. It's almost veering into like tropical tiki land, but not quite. It's like, but like lots of different spices, but not spicy. It's like really tasty. So I'd say that one.
Amazing.
That's remarkable.
Where's one place in the city I should always try to eat at?
I'm going to give you a recommendation no one goes to because it's super neighborhood. But the next time you guys come up, you have to come up when it's warm. And one of my favorite places is a block away from here, and it's called Barada, which is like a neighborhood Portuguese place, and has this beautiful back patio that seats like 100. You can get like whole suckling pig, and you get all this stuff, and it's like amazing. I don't think I'll probably ever get married, but if I ever did, I'm always like, maybe I would just rent out this back patio because it's huge, and it doesn't look like you'd expect it there. And it's so close. And it's like my favorite place to take staff. Like almost every place I've ever worked where I've been in charge of the staff party, I've been like, let's just go and light it up. They used to sell cognac for $5 each.
Wow.
Cheaper than beer because no one orders it there. Like 10 out of 10.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Brunch.
Brunch. I mean, I'm going to say simple things because that's Evelyn's place.
Oh,
Simple things.
Incredible.
It's so delightful.
So good.
It's just so sweet. It's just so feminine. It's just
Yeah.
Ah,
Cody
I
has
love
such an amazing menu. Cody always lets me make my breakfast of sides. because that's how I eat.
Yeah.
It's the best breakfast.
Yeah, and so yeah, I'd say simple.
All right. And then lastly, if I'm closing the night out, where am I closing the night out with a beer and a shot?
So if you're not closing out at Black Dice, I would say Civil Liberties. I always enjoy it as like a beer and shot. Or if you want to go more dive, I'd say Ted's Collision on College.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Heard.
Which I didn't think you went to either, so that's on
No.
my list.
No.
Heard for next
That's
time.
a new one, yeah.
Heard for next
That's
time.
awesome.
Oh,
Well,
I love that.
Yeah, so good. I mean, gosh, Toronto. Go to Toronto, people.
Go to Toronto.
It's incredible.
Visit
Bar
me.
Mordecai.
Go to Toronto.
And just,
Yeah.
yeah. Enjoy it all. It's
Do the
great.
thing.
And so thank you so much, Christina, for joining us today on Manning Overboard. I hope you had as much fun as we did, because it's always great to talk
We love
to you.
you.
We adore you, and you're just awesome. Keep being fierce.
All right.
So if people want to follow you on the socials, where should they look?
They can just look up my name. So my personal is Christina Veira. If they're curious about what's going on at the bar, Bar Mordecai as well. I don't really post to the STAVE School Instagram because I'm still developing a lot of the programming, but anything will be cross-posted to my personal. So yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. And just as a reminder, we can be followed at Manning Overboard on Instagram, or just shoot us an email at manningoverboard@gmail.com for any questions or comments. In the meantime, just thank you for tuning in for this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on our next happy hour. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming
Thank
overboard.
you so much. And look at this. I still have some.
Well done.
So good.
Manning Overboard, Happy Hour with Hotcakes and the Captain is produced and distributed by EatsDrinksTV.
A service of the nonprofit Center for Culinary Culture, home of the cocktail collection,
The Center for Culinary Culture,
telling the story of food and drink, one taste at a time.